Attention deficit and hyperactive disorder. As teachers, we hear this term used often and have probably even used it ourselves to describe inattentive students. But how much do we really know about this disorder? With the advancements of neuroscience, we can take a closer look into the science behind attention deficit and hyperactive disorder. ADHD affects 1 in 10 children, which means that whether you realize it or not, you have had students in your classroom who have had this problem. To be clear, ADHD is considered a learning disorder and not an intellectual disability. By developing a better understanding, we'll be able to not only recognize the symptoms when we see it, but also have a concept of how to aid those students. The first myth is that every child has ADHD. Although many children can display symptoms of ADHD, the brain of someone diagnosed with ADHD is slightly different. The reward circuits are not complete. There are far fewer dopamine receptors, leaving the brain feeling underwhelmed. This creates a boredom quickly and the desire for more stimulation. When stimulated properly, the brain sends an alert to focus on the new information. And that is where we need to concentrate our attention as teachers. Myth number 2. ADHD only affects children. This unfortunately isn't true. 15 to 50% of children diagnosed with ADHD continue to show symptoms into adulthood. As mentioned before, ADHD might be most recognizable from behavioral problems. However, the lack of pleasure receptors don't just go away. Children can't outgrow ADHD. Instead, most of them find a way to make it an advantage as opposed to a disability, and find careers that suit their need for more stimuli. The third myth that I've heard from both parents and teachers is that children with ADHD need strict discipline. Unfortunately, that approach can backfire and worsen the problems the child faces. Restricting the stimuli and forcing them to conform can cause the student to become frustrated and act out even more. At this stage, we are still learning how the wiring of the brain affects the wiring of the emotions. In other words, the lack of those pleasure receptors being stimulated does have an effect on learning, but it also has an effect on behavior. But how deep this connection is, we don't know yet. Frustration can impact a child's development across the board. The fourth myth: children with ADHD are fed drugs because parents or teachers are lazy. I think you can all agree that we have the child's best interest in mind and we don't ever take the use of medication lightly. Stimulants such as Adderall and Ritalin open up the dopamine receptors. With more open receptors, their brain is sending the signal to pay attention. Medication gives the child a better chance to learn and develop by evening the playing field, and gives them an incredible chance to learn alongside their peers at the same pace and in the same way. As with all medical problems, the best results are achieved when confronting it on many angles. For example, when medication is combined with behavioral therapy. As science continues to bring a better understanding to learning disabilities such as attention deficit and hyperactive disorder, it is our task as educators to sift through the material and find the most useful information to become better teachers and to create a learning environment where every child has a chance to succeed.